identify the base and the transformations, vertical asymptote and the transformations. So what is the base for number 1? 5. So on a log, the base is, we call that a subscript. It's the number that's little and lower. So the base is 5. Can you tell what the vertical asymptote is? Yep, x equals positive 4. Lots and lots of people got marked down on the rational test because when you wrote your asymptotes, you just wrote the number and you didn't say x equals in front or y equals in front. So make sure you get that. X equals 4. I usually make this answer worth 2 points. 1 point for the x, 1 point for the number. So make sure you get both points. What are the transformations? Right 4 up 3 and? What about that 2 in the front?
Oh, isn't it?
Stretch, vertical stretch of 2. All right, so I'm going to 4, and I'm putting the asymptote there. And then I have to make sure that I can type this in my calculator. Does anyone have one of the old calculators? I think we all have new calculators. Yes? Okay. So in here, we're going to type the 2 first, and I need everyone to type this. Every single person typing on their calculator. So we're typing the 2 first. And then we're going to hit the math button. And from the math button, we're going to go up, up. Hit the math button, go up, up. And then it will let you type the base and all the other stuff. So log base 5. Then we have the x minus 4. Then we have the plus 3 on the end. And then we can hit graph. Okay, so where should I start looking for points? When I look at the table, where should I start? 4. So the asymptote's at 4, so I'm going to go to my table. I'm going to look for 4. I can see 4 is an error because that's the asymptote. And then I'm going to look at the next point, and that's the one I'm going to graph. When I graded the test over the weekend, lots of you guys did not graph the asymptote, so you didn't get points for that. And then lots of you guys did not get points from the table, so you didn't get points for that either. So graphing is supposed to be easy points. You look at the table, you plot some stuff, and you get the points for it. But when I was grading the tests over the weekend, most people got 1 out of 4 on their graphs. Just because they didn't graph their asymptotes, they didn't graph points. So when I grade these, I'm going to give you 3 points per problem, per graphing problem, 1 point for drawing the asymptote, and then I expect to see, here's another point, 9.5, I expect to see that you have like 2 points in there, and that the curve is accurate. So if you graph this, do a dotted line, and then do something like that and don't have any points on it, that would be a 2-point answer because you don't have points on it to make it more accurate. If you don't draw the dotted line, I give you 1 point. Okay, so a lot of you guys over the weekend when I was grading those tests, a lot of you guys did not have your asymptotes drawn in and did not use the table to get some accurate points, and so you didn't get very many points on the test. Yes?
So why do you draw the arrow down? Because when I look at it on the graphing calculator, it just stops. So why are we drawing the arrow down?
Do you guys remember what I said about it in the video? Why your calculator doesn't have it go down all the way? So it gets closer to the asymptote. Your calculator has a very hard time with vertical lines. And so your calculator stops because technically a vertical line is not a function. It doesn't pass the vertical line test. So when we draw these, they get very, very close to a vertical asymptote, which means they get very, very close to being vertical lines, and your calculator doesn't really handle that very well. So your calculator makes it look like it stops, but it doesn't stop. It really does keep going. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions? Okay. So let's go ahead and turn the page. This one is also asking us to graph, but we're finding some different information from it. So they didn't ask us to find the vertical asymptote, but we still need to graph it to get started. So where is the vertical asymptote? 0. not 0, 1. So the vertical asymptote for a log function comes from the inside. For an exponential function, you have a horizontal asymptote and it comes from the number on the end. So this time we have to keep track of those, which type of asymptote it has depending on which type of equation it has. All right, so we're going to go ahead and graph this one now. I'm going to hit -2. How do I get the log on the screen? Math, up, up. Log base 3 of x minus 1.
And if we just hit math and then hit like, oh wait, never mind, there isn't an A button. I was going to say if we hit A, would that work?
It would be alpha A.
Alpha A?
If you hit alpha A, it would go straight there.
Okay.
All right, so we've got this. We can go ahead and graph it. And then where am I looking on my table? I'm looking for 1. So graph, look for 1 on my table. So 1 is an error because that's the asymptote. And then I've got the point 2, 0. I'm going to ignore my decimal points, but then I've got 4, -2. You can look for another point. 10, -4, that's easy to graph. Sometimes there's not a third point that's easy to graph, in which case you could just do based off 2 points. That's fine. So I make sure that I connect the points so that they follow the asymptote. They should get closer and closer and closer to it without crossing it. And then we want to have the domain and the range and the increasing and the decreasing. So domain is from left to right. How far left does the graph go? 1. The furthest left that it goes is the asymptote. That's a 1. How far to the right does it go? Positive infinity. That's a right arrow. So positive infinity. How far down does the graph go? Yep, down arrow. So that's a negative infinity. How far up does it go? Positive infinity. So down forever, up forever. And then I have my stick figure. What is the x value right here? It's 1. So it's an arrow, but the arrow is getting closer to the asymptote. So that's an x value of 1. What's the x value over here? Infinity. That's a right arrow, so that's an x value of infinity. And what is the stick figure doing? Decreasing. It's like he's sliding down into a valley or something. Okay, so he is decreasing. So what should I write for increasing? None. All right, and what should I write for decreasing? 1 to infinity. Okay. Any questions? No? Okay. Go ahead and get started working on the packet. So we have a piecewise function. We're looking at number 21, very back page, 21. So I'm going to ignore the log part for now.
What about the table?
Oh, hi guys. You ready? Conversation's done? Anya, you done? All right, I'm just waiting because your mouth is still moving. No. All right, I got a straight line to graph, x minus 3. Where do I start? -3. And then where do I go from there?
You go up 1 over 1.
Up 1 over 1, so I have a slope of 1. Up 1 over 1, up 1 over 1, up 1 over 1. So there's my straight line, straight-ish. And then what does the piecewise function tell me to do about the straight line? Yeah. Not make it dotted, because this is not an inequality. There's an equal sign right here. It says that I'm going to start it at 4. I'm going to fill that in. And does my arrow go to the right or to the left? To the right. So I'm going to make this part darker. And then I'm going to erase everything on the left side. So there's one part of my piecewise function. Okay. The other part is a log function. So now I'm going to think about what I learned today.
Would you start at 2?
I would not start at 2. I'd start with the asymptote.
Which is 0.
And the asymptote is 0. So let's go ahead and draw an asymptote in there. Okay. And then now when I graph it, I hit negative first, math up, log base 2 of x. And what do I look for on the table? 0. I look for where the asymptote is. So on the table, I look at 0. I see that error, so that's good because that's the asymptote. And then I have the point 1, 0, and 2, negative 1. So I have the point 1, 0, and 2, negative 1. And then I think about how I draw my logarithmic graph. So I follow the asymptote. And then they grow really fast off to the side, right? Something like that. And then I have to remember that I'm graphing a piecewise function.
Oh, so that one would be dotted?
It wouldn't be dotted. It's not an inequality. It's a piecewise.
Would be like when it's negative 2 underneath 4,
Yeah.
we just put an open circle?
So I go to 4, I put an open circle, and I erase this stuff. Okay, let's go to 22. So 22 starts with an exponential function. That's what we did on Friday. And when we graph an exponential function, we graph the horizontal asymptote first. And where's the horizontal asymptote?
At positive 4.
Not positive. Negative 4, because it's not the part in the parentheses, it's on the end. And so the horizontal asymptote is at negative 4. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and type that in. I've got 2 to the x minus 1, oops, 2 to the x minus 1 with a minus 4 on the end. And where on the table am I going to look to start getting my points? Not 4. Positive 1. So opposite sign. So wherever the parentheses are, I'm just thinking about the opposite of that. So I'm going to go ahead and graph this and look at positive 1. So at positive 1, I have negative 3. At positive 2, I've got negative 2. 3, 0. This one's pretty easy to graph. Lots of points we can graph on this one. So I'll go ahead and graph my exponential function. And then what does the piecewise function tell me about what I can keep?
Or x is less than 3.
Yeah, so I'm gonna go to 3, and what do I do at 3? I filled in circle. And which side do I keep? The left, because the arrow's going left, so this part gets dark. Keep this part, erase this part. Okay. Now I'm going to go ahead and graph the log function. And if you guys want, since this is a piecewise function, we could go ahead. I'm going to get rid of just like this little part of the asymptote over here so it doesn't confuse me. Okay, so we have a log function. What's the asymptote for the log function? 3. Vertical asymptote at 3. Okay, and then I'm going to go ahead and graph it. So math up, log base 3 of x minus 3 with a plus 1 on the end. Okay. So I need to look at my table, and where on my table should I look? At 3. So I'm looking for positive 3. I see the error message, which is good. That's the asymptote. And I've got the point 4, 1. and 6, 2. And I can go ahead and draw the log equation. And it says I can't use it for where it equals 3 exactly, but I can use everything to the right of 3. Now, is my log equation on 3 exactly? Nope, there's an asymptote there. So we leave it. We don't have to erase anything that time. Okay. Yeah, don't use pen on these. All right, the next one, this one is a rational function. That's from last unit. And if you guys recall, this would have a +0 on the end. And it has a vertical asymptote and a horizontal asymptote. Charlie, don't make me throw that. So vertical asymptote and horizontal asymptote. What's the vertical asymptote?
+3.
-3. And what's the horizontal asymptote? 0. So we're going to go ahead and draw 2 asymptotes to sketch this one. And hit y equals. And Kaylee showed me a fun trick on these. So last unit, we were not typing them in as fractions because we wanted our y values to be decimals, right? So Kaylee, you want to tell us your fun trick?
Okay, so I typed it in as a fraction.
Okay, let's do that first. So alpha y equals, we're going to have 1 over x plus 3.
And then I hit the math button.
So go right arrow so you're outside your fraction now. Get over here. And then hit the math button.
And then you hit number 2.
And go to number 2. So it says, what it's telling the calculator is, I'm typing this in as a fraction, but please give me decimal answers. Tricky, huh? You guys don't think that's tricky? I thought that was very tricky. I liked it very much. All right, now let's go ahead and look at the table. And look, decimals! It's the best of both worlds. Nobody else is excited. Kaylee, I'm excited. Thank you for finding that. All right, so this tells us we only want x values less than -3. So we know that these graphs are going to have 2 sets of curves, right? But we only have to look for the left one. So it's either going to be up in this corner or up in this corner. I'm not sure which one. We only have to look for that because it says x is less than -3. So I'm going to go in my table, -3. There's my asymptote right there. And then I've got the point -4, -1. Nope, -1. Down here, -4, -1. -5, -0.5. And then I can go ahead and draw the rest of it. Okay. And then we have an exponential function next. There's no number on the end, so that would be a +0 on the end. And so what does that +0 on the end mean? You have a horizontal asymptote at 0, which is perfect because I already drew it. So now we'll go ahead and graph that one. 2 to the x. Look at the table. All right, so I'm going to say I want you guys to finish 1 through 24. 25 we will do tomorrow together.
And
okay?
If we erase asymptotes,